All right. Good morning. This is my part three of the Los Angeles photography, phone photography, not with my camera. And there's part one and part two posted already, and it's been quite a bit of time since I got around to part three here. But away we go. This picture is a subway stop, one of the outside platform varieties. I like going to cities where they have some subway stops are underground and some are above ground. I don't know, I like that. And then there'll be like a elevator on the platform you can take down and stairs too, down to like the lower levels. They're oftentimes elevated. That stop is La Cienega and Jefferson, wherever that is in Los Angeles. I don't I couldn't, pinpoint it right now. I think you can see uh, downtown LA way in the background there, sort of left center. Um, but yeah, I rode the subway there a lot. And what's good about LA, and it's changed to be this way, right before I went there for the first time, was their program, and some other big cities are doing it too, but not universally. It's called fare tapping. Fare tapping, and that means you put money on a card, and the LA Metro is called the tap card. You put money on that, and then you start using it, and it deducts money. And after about two and a half, no more than three rides, I think it's used up the cap. That's what I call it. Did I say fare tapping earlier? I meant fare capping. Either way, but so after a few rides, it reaches this cap, and that's as much as you can get charged that day. And then, of course, the rest of your rides will be free. And then the same thing the next day and if you did that 3.5 days in a row or something, depending on how many times you rode, uh, I guess in a day and in a week, it would then it capped out for the week. So I think the maximum you can pay per day is around $5, I think it is. And then yeah, then when $5 a day up until the $18 amount, which is 3 days and one ride, and then you've capped out for the entire week and don't have to pay anything else for the whole week. And with a city as big as Los Angeles, being able to move around there, and what I did, I paid at Union Station. I paid $2 for the tap card. I put $18 on it because I knew I couldn't spend more than $18 in one week. And then I just used it like crazy. Didn't even think about it. And then exactly a week later, from the day I arrived there, I put another $18 on it. Well, at that time I was only there for 9 days, so I just put like $5 a day on. And when I go next time, uh, I'll put $18 on a week later, and that would get me through the whole last week. So it's kind of cool. You put $18 on it the same day every week, ride like crazy, buses and subways. You never even have to think about it. In San Francisco, you could cap out at $5 for the buses, but that does not include the BART subway system. So it's a lot better with transportation in LA. Yeah. All right, here's a upward shot of some building downtown. Uh, the downtown area of Los Angeles. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that there's different districts. There's a lot of stuff though. It looks like it's closed down, uh, functionally closed. Not like boarded up storefronts, like an abandoned old town in the West, but you know what I mean. There's still stuff going on in skyscrapers. There's the Diamond district where they have all that looks like it was pretty vibrant, and they have the outdoor markets, and then they have that you know, outside mall type place, which I can never remember the name of it. I think that was in my last video. And there's so yeah, it's okay to walk around. I mean, you run into little things. Maybe there's a couple parks down there, but not real interesting. I like San Francisco's downtown more, only because it was tight. Because everything's tight in San Francisco. LA's downtown is pretty spread out without necessarily having a lot of attractions. that we would want to walk the sprawl to go and find necessarily. This here is a way down in Long Beach, the subway all the way down there, and then had to walk through the city down by the convention center. Then you get down to the water, and there's a big the LA port is right near there. But on this side, across a little this body of water there, that's the Queen Mary ocean liner, which was one of the class of ocean liners that were made similarly to say the Titanic. I don't know if they were made by that White Star Line that built the Titanic, but it sure looks like it was. Uh, Now that, okay, interestingly enough, my mother, back in I guess it was the mid 1950s at the most, uh, rode that when it was a functioning ocean liner, either to Europe with her family, or back from Europe to New York when they were going back to Ohio where they actually lived. So yeah, it was a functioning ocean liner. Of course, that one never sank to the bottom of the sea like some ocean liners we shout out mentioned. And then later on, when they stopped using it, it wound up in Long Beach Harbor in the Los Angeles area, and now it's a hotel. So I guess they remodeled the staterooms and the cabin rooms, as they used to be called, and you can go in there and stay. It's weird, and you can go and walk around the boat and get pictures. Now, I didn't go because I was on foot, and I would have had to go up across this bridge and then walk about half a mile down to where the boat actually was, and then repeat that, and then still go through all the parks and everything to get back to the subway to take the long uh, train ride from south to central and then from central west to get back to Santa Monica where my hostel was. Um, by the way, I'll be doing a video of the Santa Monica Hosteling International Hostel. I found enough pictures to make one, so that'll be coming up sometime. Uh, but I had to go see that because my mother had a history with it. Now, if you go to that Queen Mary, I think after six o'clock, then the parking is free, and then you pay like a $10 entrance to get on there, and then you can walk the whole boat after 6 o'clock p.m. and have access to the bar and even the restaurant that's on there. Right? If you go before 6 o'clock, I think the parking's like 20 something dollars, and if you don't have a car, that's what they charge you basically to go on. So it's worth waiting till after 6 o'clock to go if you're interested in seeing it at all. This here begins the first of, I think, a few pictures. To me, this is one of the jewels in the crown of, as it were, of Los Angeles, at the Venice Beach area. Now, the entire west side of Los Angeles the entire west side of the whole state of California looks like that, by and large. One big long beach. But Venice Beach is particularly cool. It has a reputation. And I went down there, I think, on a weekday morning. I did not swim, although this year when I go back, I'm going to spend a whole day there. I mean, hanging out and eating in food trucks and hanging out at the shops. This is interesting. You can't really tell, but I got there in the morning on a weekday. There wasn't a whole lot of activity. So you can go down there. I mean, it's a thriving area, but probably on weekends it's crazy. Rollerbladers and all that kind of stuff. There's a skateboard park that's built in that sand off to one of these sides, and it's but there wasn't that. You can go down there when there's not that many people, and kind of have even Venice Beach almost all to yourself. Now those two people in the foreground. This was like maybe 9 o'clock in the morning, latest, and they had a little boom box set up, and they're playing music and they were dancing. So it's like, I don't know. I haven't been. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody in California or LA is smiley faces and sunshine and the Glee Club, but these two people were pretty happy. 9 o'clock. I don't know. They appear to maybe be partially homeless, but you can't really say that just by looking at anybody there because it's a really casual place, all in all. But these are people 9 o'clock in the morning on a weekday, because they don't have jobs or anything. Good for them. We're dancing in that little patch of sunlight. So happy, Venice Beach, California. dancing in the sunlight at 9 o'clock in the morning on a weekday. All right, so here is more of the Venice Beach. Your point is pointing down one of the lawn walks. I could have literally walked on more or less a stretch of wide sidewalk like that all the way a mile and a quarter or something from my hostel in Santa Monica down to Venice. But right outside my hostel, there was a little bus, number 33 or something like that. You jump on, and it goes down there. And like I said a little while ago, with the fare capping, you don't have to think about, oh, what does the bus cost? So it's not going to cost you anything. You ride, I don't know, you ride the bus 18 times in 1 week there, or the train. That's a dollar a ride. You ride it more than 18 times, which you would as a tourist probably, it just starts going down to be less than $1 a ride. So who cares, right? So I shot down there on a public transportation. But there's all these shops, one of those hostels down there. I think that blue and white building was actually a Jewish community center of some kind, which is kind of nice right there. And then, of course, on the right, you got your volleyball court things and your beach in general, palm trees. Another shot of Venice Beach. I walked off into the grass and sand there a little bit. Now, for the angle of the camera, I'm not even going to call it a camera's phone. For the angle of the phone camera, let's be clear, that is it gives the perspective of being real wide and long, and that's not a necessary perspective. That really is how it is. These are beaches connected to the city. You walk across that beach and step on that grass, you're in Los Angeles. And all the beaches are wide and long because they go the whole west coast of the state, and they're in good shape. There's not any. I mean, I didn't see any trash. I mean, they have people who go around and clean it up, but supposedly I've heard that the people who live there are, very proud, almost protective of their beaches, and in an environmental way. So they keep them clean. People don't go and just trash stuff. And if someone did, someone else would jump on their stuff, or the beach patrol might get them or something. But they're real nice. I mean, if I was there at 9 o'clock in the morning, or it could have even been earlier, if those beaches had been trashed every night by partiers or something, all that stuff would have still been on the beach. They wouldn't have had time to clean it all up. And that beach was pristine and perfect, even in one of the busiest probably beach areas in the Los Angeles area proper, Venice Beach. There's another shot down the sidewalk. Now, if you were in New Jersey or something by a seashore little area like this, they might have a wooden deck built, and that's what they call, of course, the boardwalk, which is a famous term. This would be the cement walk, Venice Beach, but it's their version of a boardwalk. Is certainly more permanent, and just block after block after block, there's all these shops and stuff to the left, and then your beautiful beaches there on the right. Now, I think I was there till noon or 1 o'clock or something, and then I walked down to the Venice canals to get some pictures. I think I went home from there. But as each hour went by, more and more people were showing up, and skateboarders and rollerbladers, and I don't know, it really felt very California-y around that time. All these people going up, hey man, and giving each other high fives. And then I went over to the famous gym where Arnold Schwarzenegger used to train. It's right there on Venice Beach, and there's an open area with a slab and a rec center building and some basketball courts and these bleachers you can sit in, and you get to sit on those bleachers and that's near the gym too, and just mill around and just watch all kinds of life and weirdos and the freaks and regular people all milling out, and quite a few of those people, I guess, some of the people, I was surprised at how many people in that area that morning knew each other or recognized each other and were like talking and stuff. No one recognized me, of course. Who knows? I mean, even for a large place like Los Angeles, at some points I felt like I was the only stranger in Venice Beach that morning. All right, here's yet another picture of Venice Beach. Shooting off, those are some, I guess, permanent decorations slash sitting areas, some benches, trash cans. You'll see those every so often. And there's some buildings that have, bathrooms in there. Bathrooms are kind of sketchy. I think there's even someone sleeping in one of them, and there were a couple like beach cops are over there that were trying to get him out of one of the rooms, one of the bathroom rooms, because you can go in there and lock the door, and sleep overnight in a bathroom, right? With the sound of the ocean coming out, good and bad, I guess. But one thing I noticed particularly well is because you supposedly have a lot more freedom. It's a lot more expensive to live in California, but you have more freedom. You pay like 8 or 10% in state tax or something. It's pretty high, but for that, you get a lot more services. You get freedom, and you also have I know the reputation of the LA cops, Rodney King and all that stuff. But at the same time, you don't. These cops weren't dragging this homeless person out of a bathroom on Venice Beach. They're being very nice and polite about it, actually, which I found interesting. I did walk by some of the stalls on the left side, on the little sidewalk, boardwalk thing. There was this Asian guy. Some people have like little tents, and then they have like these little tiny shops that are in these buildings. This guy actually had a shop, I think. He was an Asian guy. He walked out and was soliciting me for a massage. Like a 20-minute massage for like $12 or something. And I was like, you know what the hell? And I felt embarrassed to say no too. He kind of got me. But I went in there and put my face down in the little donut hole thing, and he gave me this full Asian massage thing for 12 minutes. And I got up and I was like, wow. I mean, I'm tingling and my head was light. It felt good. And I tipped him like $3, gave him $15, and he gave me this little energy drink thing, which I went like over here to this area here and drank it. Like I said, next time I'm definitely going to spend more time. But just to get an idea, look at all those beaches back there, on and on and on. So here, as I mentioned before, is the skateboard park thing that they built literally right on the beach. And there are some people using it. There were more people using it later on. Looks like it's pretty good. I got to remember that this, you'd have to almost be my age to remember this, but back in the Venice Beach area and Santa Monica, right up the road a little bit, was a world famous place for the skateboarding movement, like back in the 70s. In the Venice Beach, they still have the Dogtown skates. When I was a teenager, there'd be like, skateboarding was a big deal. It kind of still is, but there were like skateboarding magazines that were out. They mentioned, Dogtown skates all the time. There was a merchandise you could get that said all that. They sold gear too, I think. So this group of skateboarders became world famous, and then sort of started a company based on that too. But this was the area. Apparently, Venice Beach a long time ago was kind of run down and just had like shanty shacks, and the beaches, they were just broken down wood structures on it. It wasn't very taken care of very much, like in the late 60s, early 70s. And that's the neighborhood these kids came out of, and skateboarding around the towns and stuff. And then, so skateboarding has always been associated with Venice Beach to a degree, even a large degree perhaps. And then they built I don't know when they built it, but then they built this actual bona fide skateboard park, and it's quite nice. To be able to get down there and skateboard on something that nice, and then it's like, okay, enough skateboarding. Look, run down and jump into the ocean. Here is another part of Venice Beach. It's some walls, and I think even those trees look like they have graffiti on them. On that tree on the right, you can kind of see a guy with a cholo-looking guy with a blue hat on and almost looks like a patch on his eye. I'd hate to think those were painted right onto the trees, but the more I look at this, the more it looks like that is indeed the case. And then I don't know what that cone looking thing is. There's Oi back there. That was kind of like a skinhead punk rock thing out of England, which took off here too back in the 80s. Yeah, but LA would be real famous for their taggers, their wall art, wall art graffiti artists and stuff. And at least in that one section, it's all over Venice Beach, which is actually makes it quite colorful. If that hadn't been there, it probably just would have been a boring old gray cement wall. So this is the gym I mentioned earlier as a Muscle Beach. So, I mean, it's Venice Beach, but the gym at least is called Muscle Beach. They have an outdoor area where people work out, and then indoor, and apparently a lot of famous, bodybuilding people have trained there. And then that's a slab I mentioned by the rec center thing with the basketball courts. So you can go down there and pick and get into a pickup basketball game if that's your thing. That's probably more better associated with like New York City or something. But 3/4 out of the year, it'd be better be playing actually all year long. Take that back. That's all year long. It'd be better playing basketball outside in LA, but it would probably in New York or Boston, places like that. Except for small amounts of time in the spring and fall in New York, maybe even in the summer there it gets kind of hot. Remember, California is on. There's only I haven't explained this before. There's only 7 areas in the world who have what they call the Mediterranean climate. They're in different continents, and they're always on the west side of the continents, like a part of the west of Australia, part of the west of Africa, all around the Mediterranean Ocean. The Europe area it's got this climate. And then California got the climate. I don't think it goes all the way down to San Diego, but it's just a piece of the west coast of California. But all of LA is included in there, which means the temperatures, it doesn't rain very much. Lots of sunshine. That's why you get the weather. Some people find boring, but it depends on your prerogative. But the temperatures are like never gets cooler than like 60 or something, and even and all year long never gets higher than about say I'd say in the 80s. That would be the height of the summer. It might hit 90 with the environment changing a little as it appears to be, but the Mediterranean climate keeps it in that 20, 25, 30 degree range always. There's no seasons, that's true, but there's also no snow, there's no freezing cold. But if you want some snow, you want to go skiing, you get in a car, a Greyhound or something, and you go up to Northern California, and you get the Sierra Mountains and all the skiing you want to. And I've said that in another video, how varied the, you got desert, cities, snow, any terrain you can pretty much think of, you can find somewhere in California. But the LA weather is mild weather year round. Here's another wide shot of that basketball area. There's a little rec center building back there. Now that rec center building is kind of old. I couldn't figure out what, if anything, it was being used for. The back wall where you can see those 3 rectangles painted on there. I was over by that, and that's like a area you can hit handball against. Or I think a guy was actually hitting a tennis ball on a tennis racket, so that'd be good exercise. And eventually, at some point, people did come and were playing basketball there. And this is some guy in a funny, Dr. Seuss hat type thing with a rolling suitcase just walking across the asphalt there. And I was probably sitting on the bleachers. So that's the bleachers I was talking about earlier. You can sit on those bleachers, and the boardwalk's behind you at that point. But you could watch all this interaction and all this stuff going on here in this basketball court area, which is quite a bit, depending on what hour of the day it is. Here would be a shot of outside of one of the many, many shops. So anywhere we're near a beach, you're going to see these kind of shops. Even down in Corpus Christi in Texas. There's a bunch of shops, but they're all concentrated in one area. In Venice Beach, they're spread out all down the walkway. I thought this was kind of, if you've got your, Santa Monica and Venice Beach lifeguard gear you can buy. People like to buy that. There's a shirt, Venice Beach, California, with a guy flexing his arms because of that famous gym. And then you've got these women's shorts. Mike's bitch and it ain't gonna spank itself. Now, whether that's all funny and everything when you're walking, on the promenade there of Venice Beach, but I'll be darned if I've ever seen a woman, certainly didn't see this in LA, someone who would have bought those and were wearing them around, like town or on Subway or in downtown LA or on Hollywood Boulevard or something. Kitschy, touristy stuff like that. I mean, that's not even touristy. It doesn't say anything about LA or California on it, but apparently these people who run the store thought that was a good enough idea that someone was going to buy those to put them out on display on the sidewalk outside their shop. As if, saying, buy this, look, isn't this cool? Yeah, it's funny to see, but I don't know how practical it really is. I mean, you're not going to go to a job interview in them, right? Another example of one of the storefronts on Venice Beach Promenade. This is some ice cream, fried food, hamburger place. Looks like a rendition of a Marilyn Monroe up there. It says something kitchen. I can't. Oreo shakes, and yeah, I mean that, if you're there in the summer, which I was, but it was still morning and you were hot or whatever, you could go there if you wanted to. I think they were already open. This was probably getting later in the morning. Let me see if I have a time. Yeah, my timestamp is 10:54, so this was almost 11 in the morning, so that's not so surprising. So you can go, you can't go, it says corn dog, taco combo, so you can go down, you have smoothies, lemonade, so yeah, you can go down there for the entire day, and you got your restaurants right there on the little boardwalk strip area there, which is just a few steps back to get on the sand and the beach. Doesn't see a whole lot of cover on the beach. Now, if you were there all day, UV is pretty high in California, UV ray rating, so you'd have to get a sunscreen and all that good stuff. But I guess it'd be perfect if they had some more options for shade on the beach. I didn't even see those vendors selling tents and stuff, to rent to people or anything. At least not that early. Okay, this after I left the Venice Beach area, I walked down not a short ways to the Venice Canals. This is a famous spot. It's supposed to mimic how Venice, Italy looks. Apparently, some rich person or very rich person decades ago lived in LA, liked Venice, Italy so much that he made this whole little area, these interwoven little canals to sort of mimic or look like Venice, Italy. But this is in Venice Beach, California. I don't know if Venice Beach was named Venice, like Venice, Italy, because of these Venice canals or what. I don't know the history of that. But as I said, those are all residential areas that either look out there. See, some of them have like little boats just floating out there in the water. They walk down their boat and paddle off. I don't think it connects to the ocean, but you kind of wouldn't want it to. I think on the other side of these canals, there's like a shopping area, like a Trader Joe's. So like if you lived in a gray house on the left, you could get in your boat, go down the canal, take a left, go all the way through the canals, like go to Trader Joe's or something, do your grocery shopping, and then canoe back. And I don't know you can do that, but that would be cool if you could. Okay, so here's right at about noontime. I'm taking a shot down, perhaps the other way, because you can see the mountains in the background there. So that's taking a shot back up towards Santa Monica. And this is, like I said, this is noon, and I just checked too. It was a Monday morning I was there. So this is Monday morning at noon, and it's starting to, fill up a little bit. There's definitely more people on the streets. I was there as early as like 9, and there was nobody on those sidewalks, and now there's quite a few people, and people sitting on the benches. 9 o'clock when I saw the people, dancing. Well, by noon, the dancing's over and the freaks are coming out, or the Venice Beach shoppers, strollers. You can get an idea of that there. Okay, these shots coming up now are another beach area. Now, I took a bus. It wasn't on, well, actually it was. I took a bus down to this one station, then get this little like Bay Area feeder bus thing, which dropped me off in this area. And and I do a lot of research this year to try and find out exactly where it was again, because I didn't really make notes of where I was. Finally figured it out through trial and error that it was the Hermosa Beach area, which is further down the coastline but still in LA, not as far down as Long Beach. I found this to be the perfect beach. You got off, there's a little teeny, suburb you were in. Bus goes right there, and you go out to this beach, and I don't know what day. Let's say this was a Tuesday. This was 11:30 a.m. This picture, but it was a Tuesday. It wasn't like Venice Beach was going to start to fill up. I had this entire beach, huge thing, to myself, and the cement area in front. There's a whole little bathhouse there where you can change, you can shower off. Those little blue doors on the left, if they got into a picture after I edited it. That's a semicircle of these blue doors that have bathrooms. You have your own private area, you can go change in there, and on the upper part of those bathroom areas is a little shower, so you can go out there on the sand and get all sandy or whatever, and then I sprayed off in those outdoor shower things, just hung up my stuff to dry in the beautiful sunshine. When everything was dry enough, I headed back. I was able to find out exactly what intersection I got off the bus 2 years ago again, and put it in my travel notes for later this summer, and I plan to go back to that same spot but spend a good deal more time there this time. And actually, I think I swam there last time, but I'll swim more extensively the next time. This is that same Hermosa Beach area, and they have their own little, walkway, paved walkway too. There's the beach on the right, and then there's all these houses. I guess these residential places where people live, which is cool. I guess there's some restaurants and hotels there too, probably, but some of those are private residences, definitely. But that's just a great picture. It gives you an idea. I don't know if you walked in that part of town. If you were to walk way down those sidewalks, I'm not even really sure where you'd wind up. But if you go, a mile any direction, there's always like another beach. There's a Hermosa Beach, and then there's Manhattan Beach, and it goes on and on through Long Beach, which has its own beach. And you go down past Long Beach, you're technically getting out of LA, and then there's tons of more, but Newport Beach and all that stuff. It's like every mile or two along the entire California coast seems to be some different official beach. This is back in Santa Monica. There's a area, you can access it from the street, and then you walk all through it, and then there's like a bunch of shops, sort of like an outdoor mall, called the 3rd Street Promenade, I believe it's called. And there's lots of different shops in there. It was quite a bit like that Grove area, which is in the Melrose area of LA. But this is smack dab in the center of Santa Monica. I just got a picture of the Barbie store. Don't even know if that was open. That looks like the entrance is, covered up or something. But walking through here was a shortcut for me to get from the hostel. You'd go through all these shops and stuff, and then when you came out the other end of the promenade, 3rd Street Promenade, you were right there by 4th Street, which is where the end of the line subway stop, the gold or yellow E line that then goes in the town, past some, all points west or east, heading back toward downtown. It was just right on the other side of this promenade thing. So I had to walk through here quite often as a shortcut to get to the subway. This shot is a picture of, I don't know if it's the Paramount Studios, but there's probably a few locations in the LA area, but it's Paramount. I was on some bus ride where I was just going jumped on a bus because the fare capping. Pretty much, you could be walking down the street going to a store 3 blocks away, and it's like, oh, bus coming by, just jump on it. It doesn't matter because after 3.5 days, everything's free. There's no more you're going to spend that. There's no way you're going to spend more than that $18 a day. So jump on any and every transportation that might be going by, even if you're going a short distance. Why the hell not? But I was taking some random bus ride around somewhere, probably not even knowing where I was going. I was probably sitting at a bus stop and looked over, and there was this uh, one section of something to do with Paramount Pictures. Of course, you're in LA. The association with the movies and stuff is still very prominent. Okay, this would be on Hollywood Boulevard, where the stars, movie stars and the like, are put in musicians and things like that have their stars on Hollywood Boulevard. Um, and if you're really looking for someone's star in particular, they're not just on Hollywood Boulevard. They're on side streets going left and right from Hollywood Boulevard. Because there's so many of them there, they couldn't get them all just on one road, even as big as Hollywood Boulevard is. And there's everywhere. So you wanted to find where one particular Hollywood star was, if they had one, you literally have to, like, I don't know, get a exact GPS location on a mapping service or something and go find it. I wasn't looking for anybody's stars in particular. I was just walking down Hollywood Boulevard, and you can't help walking over them. They're everywhere, like I said. And there's Jerry Lewis. So I certainly am highly familiar with Jerry Lewis from when I grew up in the '70s. He was still quite well known. Old school Hollywood comedian and actor. I'm pretty sure he's dead now, but that's his star on Hollywood Boulevard. An example of what the stars look like in general. All right, I'm not even sure how this picture got in there, but I took it and I chose it weeks ago. It's just a big on Hollywood Boulevard, a big advertisement sign. It's an outstanding television movie. Now, Beavis and Butthead, after the series canceled, they did make one movie for the theaters, that Beavis and Butthead Do America. So this supposed to be a new thing, just based on that Beavis character, Cornholio. I never saw it, never heard anything about it, never even heard a reference to it except for this sign on Hollywood Boulevard. But yeah, I mean, it's not even the kind of picture normally would have snuck in here. But there it is. Okay, this is off of Hollywood Boulevard, the infamous, USA location of Capitol Records. This is, the Beatles were signed to Capitol Records in the U.S., even though because even if you're a European band, you still got to get signed or distributed or whatever through a U.S. label. And so, I mean, a lot of great bands and musicians were Capitol Records artists. I mean, so at any given time back in the mid to late '60s, the one of the Beatles would have been walking in there, two of them or something, and talked to some record executive and walking out. It's just off of Hollywood Boulevard, but it's prominently, it goes up prominently. And that's like a really old building. They haven't, modernized the building in like forever. And so it's not right directly on Hollywood Boulevard, but maybe half a block off of it or something. But that is an iconic thing of Hollywood Boulevard, or for all of LA in particular. I mean, there's lots of labels, record labels in LA, of course, but that might be one of the most renowned. Another star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and this is Humphrey Bogart. Okay, I'm going to do my Humphrey Bogart impersonation based on that Brady Bunch episode. Pork chops and applesauce. Try that again. What are we having for dinner tonight, Mom? Pork chops and applesauce. And this part 3 wraps up with a few more of the stars. With my studio lights on, I cannot read what that top star is, but the bottom one is Elizabeth Taylor. Cleopatra. Um, Obviously a famous one. That one on top might have been could even be Richard Burton or something. Which they were married to. That was one of the most famous Hollywood couples ever. You know, while it lasted, and none of those things seem to last for a long time either. But but you can see that you walk up and down both sides of Hollywood Boulevard. There's all these stars. Now, if someone's getting a Hollywood star done, you have to pay like a fee and then an application process to even get the thing going, and then if you were to get one, trying to get one right on Hollywood Boulevard instead of off Hollywood Boulevard would be ideal. But probably, I mean, I guess they could put one in each of those little squares of the sidewalk. They haven't done that, but maybe they wanted to keep them spread out a little. And if that was the case, then all available spaces on Hollywood Boulevard could be taken up now because they've been putting them there for 100 years or something. I don't know. But at any rate, this ends part 3 of my Los Angeles photo series. There'll be a part 4, which I'll try and put up a little bit sooner when I got part 3 up. And that is that. Thank you for watching.